Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Loren, and welcome to all of you insubordinates out there. Dave Reichert, in his own words, at an in-person meet and greet with a Q&A session. I'm going to show you about 4 minutes of a 1-hour session, and I'm going to comment on it. After that, you can watch the entire video, unclipped and unedited, for your pleasure. Is he the one that we should be backing for governor? I don't know. Will he stand up for your rights, or will he be just like the politicians we have now? Those are the questions for you to answer. In the search for those answers, you need to be true to yourself. What do you believe in? What are your opinions? Not what the mainstream media thinks, not what the establishment wants you to think, not what I'm saying. You have to think for yourself, find the answers, look at the history of a candidate, look at what they do, look at what they stood for. Who did they vote with? How did they vote? Did they stand up for you, or did they do favors for others that cost you money? You have to dive under the rhetoric. Remember, politics is sales. A campaign, its donors, and its staff have a product to sell. And that product is the candidate. Just like fertilizer salesmen, they have to convince farmers that their brand of cow manure is the best, the sweetest, and the most economical cow manure in the whole land. Politicians get advertised. It's no different than commercials for products you see on TV. You just have to dig to find out what kind of product they're trying to sell you. What's the pig behind the lipstick sometimes, right? Who are the donors? Are they hardworking citizens like you, or are they big money people with an agenda and favors to be repaid? Let's break down 4 minutes of Reichert's meet and greet and the things that I thought were important, the key parts of a 1-hour video. But after I'm done, you can watch the entire thing right here. It'll play right when I'm done in its entirety for you. So let's dive in and take a look. Roll the intro. Quiet on the set. It's go time. All right, everybody, thanks for being here. It's been a while since I've done a long form video, but if I get enough interest, I might make it a habit. So let me know in the comments if you want me to continue to make videos. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. And also be sure to hit the bell so that you get notified when I post future videos. All right, let's go. Now, the original video has pretty bad audio. In the clips you're about to see, I cleaned it up a little bit, and I also synced their lips, the moving of their lips with the audio part, so that it doesn't sound like an old Godzilla movie. Remember those where the people's mouth would move and then you'd hear them talking? So I cleaned that up a little bit in these clips. If you watch the entire video unedited after I get done, you'll see what I'm talking about. The first question he gets asked is, if there's another candidate besides himself who gets endorsed by the Republican Party at the state convention, will he endorse that candidate? Here's that Q&A.
If the Washington State Republicans endorse another candidate at the state convention other than yourself, will you endorse that candidate?
No. I'm going to run. I'm running. I'm running to win. I'm not stepping down.
The next question is about a debate, which I think is a really good question. Why haven't we had a debate? Why aren't there any candidate forums like we had in 2022 and 2020? Remember, in 2020, 37 candidates all wanted to be governor. Candidate forums and debates are where the public can see and hear the candidates for themselves and make informed decisions. People can see how they react to direct questions from the audience. We aren't having them this go around. I think that is a mistake, because what are we left with? What other tools do we have to make a decision? Only what the candidates want us to see and hear, and only what we can dig up on our own. Remember, Inslee refused to debate me until he received so much pressure he had to, but he agreed to only doing one, and only if it were in separate studios, doing it remotely. Remember? Reichert absolutely refuses to debate. And by the time you watch him in action at this forum, like this video, I think you'll see why. His handlers don't want him in front of an audience where he is subject to questions. They want to control everything. Here's that question and answer.
Okay. Debates are the equal opportunity for we the people to evaluate the positions both Republicans align with as well as differ on for the Washington citizens. Will you be or for the Washington citizens you will be representing? When will you debate Semi-Bird as the Constitution matters?
I will not debate Semi-Bird.
Whoa!
Next question.
Why?
Do you support Trump's decision not to debate?
No, not really.
And why? Because
Well, the Democrats are after it, yeah.
It's your decision. It's your decision.
okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Now, I'm looking forward to debating Ferguson after the primary, after we win.
Whoa!
I'm sorry, I'm just not going to go there. He's not a credible candidate.
All right, did you catch that? Reichert, who said he would have arrested Donald Trump and most likely would have voted to impeach him if he was still in Congress, used Donald Trump as an excuse not to debate Semi-Bird. Then when the audience pushed back at him and a member said, "It's your decision," Reichert put up his hand and said, "That's enough."
It's your decision.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Unbelievable. After he shut down that audience members, he pivoted to talking about the general election. With reactions like that and treating people like that, he won't even make it to the general. This is the primary election, and he wants to limit people being able to ask the tough questions. When they do, he shuts them down. Stop. Enough. So he won't debate. He's too vulnerable, and he's an egotist. The next question he gets, and remember, these are audience members who have written these questions on a card to be asked of the candidate. The next one's a three-part question. Does he know what constitutional money is? Is he aware of the other states that are moving to protect their economies with it? And would he support legislation to ban the use of central bank digital currencies in Washington? Here's the quick answers. And I don't know anyone who wouldn't know the right answer, right? It's basic stuff. Gold and silver, according to the Constitution, are the only constitutional money. So what is constitutional money? Well, maybe he should dust off that old Constitution and look at Article 1, Section 10. Gold and silver are legal tender in the United States. It's been that way ever since our country was founded. It's in the Constitution. And then central bank digital currency is more money backed by nothing, except it would be all digital, and your access to your money would be controlled electronically, like by the central bank, you know, how they do it in China. It would also be tied to your social credit score, like in China. If you don't behave like a good minion and do what they tell you to do, then you can have your money shut off until you comply. Inslee did that with people's livelihoods here in Washington, and Trudeau did it in Canada with the truckers. Imagine what it would be like if all they had to do is click a mouse and shut you down That's the danger of central bank digital currency, or otherwise known as CBDC. Here's a question in non-answer, along with him asking, how many more questions do we have? Check it out.
Do you know what constitutional money is, and are you aware of the movement that other states are making to create reserves to help shelter the states from certain economic trials that lie ahead? And would you support legislation to bar the use of central bank digital currencies within Washington state?
Okay. No, I'd have to research that question. Next question. Next question. Okay. How many more do you have? That's all right. How many do you have left?
3 more. Okay, here's a quick one.
There you go. So because he said that Semi Bird wasn't a credible candidate earlier, he got asked a follow-up question by an audience member who wrote it on a card. The question was, why is Semi Bird not a credible candidate? To which he says, after he chuckles, I'll let you figure that out. You can hear the audience reaction and him talking over them and quieting them down once again, putting his hand up at them. Here's the question and answer. Notice he says he always takes the high road, but then goes for the oldest trick in the book. It's all about the money, and I have the money, so I'm the only one who can win. If you listen close to him, you can hear him bragging about winning when he was outspent. So Semi can do the same thing, right? It only matters if it's about him, and then he pivots to the general election. Again, we aren't in the general election. We're in the primary, but he wants to avoid talking about that and all the support from the people that Semi Bird is getting. Just think if we had a candidate with the people behind them and the party, which I didn't have because the Republican Party didn't donate a single dollar in my campaign after I beat their chosen one in the primary. But here again, Reichert won't play unless it's him. It's all about him. Here's that question and answer.
Why
I'll
is
take this
Semi
one.
not a credible candidate?
I'll let you figure that out, because I am not going to talk about my opponent, but all I will encourage you to do is please take a look at the facts and then make your decision. I always take the high road, but my bottom line is I don't consider him to be a credible candidate. I'll just say one thing: he has no money. He's in debt. This is going to cost us $15 to $20 million. We're closing in on 1.7, 1.8 million, and we're closing in on Ferguson. I've won campaigns before, and I've won. I've won campaigns where I've been behind and I've been outspent. So I know if the Democrats come at me with 30 million, I can win this race with 50.
All right, the next question is about him supporting Inslee and the mandates. The person who wrote this question asked about his votes in Congress supporting Inslee. He used this technicality to his advantage and told the host to stop. Stop asking me this question. Did he talk about him praising Inslee for the lockdown, for the shutdown, for the way he treated citizens, which Reichert did praise Inslee for that? No, he didn't. He just avoided it completely, shut it down, and moved on. Here's that exchange.
Okay. Last question. I noticed your voting records supported Democrat Governor Inslee on COVID protocols, which destroyed many businesses, our education for kids.
Wait, okay, stop. No, I wasn't in Congress. So my voting record, yeah.
So after the Q&A is over and the host takes control of the microphone, Reichert realizes that he lost the audience. He grabs the microphone from the host, goes on a rant about his age, how he doesn't know Bird, and how he's a better candidate who came out of retirement to do this, like he's doing us a favor. Oh, and he loves his family. Like, was that something anybody would question? It's all I. Here you go.
Hey, you know, look, I'm 73 years old. So for those of you who are bird fans, I don't know the man very well. I understand he's pleasant and well-spoken and smart. I have nothing against Senator Bird at all. I'm just saying, I'm a better candidate. I came out of retirement to do this because I love this state, I love this country, I love my family, I love my great grandkids, and I think I'm the one who can win this race to make a difference for the rest of the people in this state.
This video, and you can see the entire thing here in just a moment, is why he will not debate Semi Bird. It's why he will not go to a candidate forum. He is an authoritarian who thinks it's beneath him to have to go through the process of the people vetting a candidate. Let's get this straight. Reichert was a sheriff, a congressman, and then a lobbyist in DC. He thinks everyone should get the hell out of his way and pull to the side because of his greatness. That is egotistical and shows he is a legend in his own mind. Semi Bird is a war hero, highly educated and a humble man who stood up for parents' rights as a school board member and put it all on the line when he was wounded in action and received the Purple Heart. What has Reichert done for you? When did he stand up for you? Was it when he voted with Congressman Jay Inslee for cap and trade? Was it when Dory Munson called him a socialist rhino? Who did you see him standing up for in this forum video? Himself. He thinks he's above the average citizen and shouldn't have to take questions or debate. That's why he asked all the candidates to drop out. Some did. But Semi Bird isn't in this for himself. He's in it for you and me. Now, I hope that sheds some light on who you should choose for your governor. Again, you have to decide. I'm just giving you my take on it and information. And I'll guarantee you, for me and everyone I know, it isn't Reichert. Because we're done with career politicians. We're voting for Semi Bird because we want career Americans in office. Just like I told you, here's the entire video unedited. Make the right choice, Washington. Our future depends on you. Good night, everybody. Please share.
So good.
Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post future videos.
Dave Reichert has a distinguished 33-year law enforcement career at the King County Sheriff's Office, starting as a beat cop and later becoming appointed and elected King County Sheriff, leading the 1,100 people organization for 8 years. That's impressive. Reichert worked as the lead investigator on the Green River serial killer case, where 49 young women were murdered during the 1980s. In 2004, he was honored with the National Sheriff's Association Sheriff of the Year Award. Reichert ran and won election on Washington's 8th Congressional District and would go on to win a total of 7 terms in Congress. Dave is undefeated at the ballot box. Reichert has honored to be just a handful of freshman members of Congress at the time selected to chair a subcommittee and was respected by members on both sides of the aisle for his willingness to listen and work to find common sense solutions to real problems. During his time in Congress, Reichert helped in emergency preparation, tax reform, expanding trade opportunities for our farmers and small businesses, giving police the support they deserve, helping foster youth and combating sex trafficking. After returning from Congress in 2019, Reichert has also been instrumental in helping law enforcement across the country obtain a rapid DNA technology which provides a DNA profile in just 90 minutes, and has been working on ending human trafficking in Central America, and is back to help show Washington there's another way. Please welcome Congressman Dave Reichert.
I'm sorry you have to read all that. Wasn't that impressive? The folks here. I was gonna try to do this without a microphone. This room, the acoustics are not quite so good, so if I trip over the microphone, would you help me back up, Diane? Yeah, I'm falling for you all, yes. Well, first of all, thank you all for inviting me to be with you this afternoon, or it's actually still morning. Thank you for having me here today. Just got back from the San Juan Islands on Saturday night. We took Sunday off, and I actually fell asleep during the football game. Yeah, I wanted San Francisco to win. Yeah, okay, so I only lost a vote. Oh well, that's the way the ball company put it. We spent 3 days in the Tri-Cities not too long ago. Then I went straight to Spokane, we spent a couple of days there. We've been back over this area. I've lost track of how many times, but I just wanted to share that with you. It's a real interesting trip to move across the state and have conversations with people who live in Washington State, and that's a privilege. So I want to share some things with you, and then I'll answer some questions. First of all, the bio introduced you to me a little bit. I want to tell you a little bit about my family life. Some of you may not know. I'm the oldest of 7 children. I was born in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. I was a year old when my parents decided to move out to Washington State and find a job. My dad ended up working at Pacific Car and Foundry, which later turned into Kenwood Trucking. So I had a couple of connections there. One, my father and my uncle worked with Pacific Car and Foundry, and later I enlisted along with my team here in Ridgeway from that same foundry, although it was called Kenwood Trucking. So it's kind of an interesting turn of events. We grew up in the Renton Highlands in a duplex up there. It's off the Sunset Boulevard. We moved to Kent. I went to Kent in high school. I ran away from home when I was a senior in high school. Grew up at home, played with domestic violence. So as the oldest, I was sort of the person in between my mother and father, and has some physical scars to show that as well as emotional scars. I tell you that because I think it's important for you to know where I come from. A lot of times when I was in Congress, we got phone calls from people who said, yeah, he's another Republican born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And that's not true. My parents fought for a dime they made, and they taught me to work hard, and I started working when I was 12 years old, handed over the money to my father and mother to help pay for food and clothing for my younger brothers and sisters. I was fortunate enough to be a little bit gifted athletically, and played football at Kenwood in high school, and a coach up in the stands happened to see me play, and asked if I would come and play at a small college in Oregon called Concordia Lutheran College. Now, my grandfather's idea, because he was a Lutheran pastor, my mother's father, my dad was the youngest of 13. Yeah. So you can tell where he got some of his frustration from as I grew older. But my grandfather was the Lutheran pastor and wanted me to follow in his footsteps. I went to Concordia. I'm dyslexic also, so I had difficulty in school and growing up. And as you might guess, as a senior living in my 1956 North grade in Camp Valley, I was really concerned about surviving and not so much about my grades. So my grades weren't really the best, but they made accommodations for me. And that way, of course, we had no money, so they also paid for my schooling in Concordia. Met my wife there. After 2 years of school, we got married as soon as we graduated. I joined the Air Force Reserves, did about 7 months active duty, left the Air Force, and then went into the Sheriff's Office soon after I turned 21 years old. I had 2 Valor Awards while I served in the Sheriff's Office. One story I'll share with you quickly because it relates to domestic violence, which has become one of my passions in resolving and helping people work through. I went to a domestic violence call at Federal Way. The husband, when I showed up, was in the window, a picture window of the small home, and had her by the throat and put her knife to her throat. And I crawled in the window, snuck down the hallway, and freed her, drug her down the hallway, threw her out the window, turned around, and I was in a fight with a husband who had a butcher knife and slit my throat 3 times, had 45 stitches in my neck. And the last thing that he did, I fell over a coffee table and came down and tried to bury it in my neck. And I caught the knife right here. I just had a little bit of a U-shaped scar on my Adam's apple where the tip of the knife was hidden. That is a story I share because today our police officers are doing this every day. Not that specific scenario, but they're risking their lives every day. I spent 33 years in the Sheriff's Office. I understand that life and death struggle. That's not my only close call, by the way. And I think if you talk to a lot of cops, they can share a lot of stories with you where they came close to death. The interesting thing about it is, and this moves me into my current family, is that my wife never once said, when I came home with those 45 stitches, I want you to quit. She has always been there through the whole 33 years, through all of that, through Green River, which, by the way, was 9 years of collecting dead bodies. Scores and scores and scores of dead bodies of little girls and young women. And when people say, Dave, I don't want you to talk about that, because that's not about what you're doing today. Yes, it is. It's a part of me. How can you not talk about a case where you collected over 100 dead bodies? You tell me. And that affects how you look at every person, how you look at life, how you look at your family. I've been married now 53 years. She put up with me being gone quite a bit over the Green River days. And as the sheriff gets called on a lot too, for a variety of things. 53 years, 3 kids, 6 grandkids. And we just had our 5th great granddaughter about 2 months ago. So, law enforcement. And then in Congress, briefly mentioned some of the positions that I held. Emergency Preparedness Subcommittee Chair, the Chairman of the Tax Subcommittee on the Ways and Means Committee, the Chairman of the Trade Subcommittee, which is 40% of jobs here in Washington State, working with Korea, working with Panama, Colombia, and Japan on our trade agreements, and working not only throughout the Obama administration with his trade department, but also with Bob Lighthizer, who was President Trump's trade guy. So, and I also chaired the Human Resources Subcommittee, which relates to a lot of the social issues that we're dealing with today. When I left Congress, I took a job that was briefly with the University of North Texas, and also with Gordon Thomas Honeywell. I worked in Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica, and Panama on human trafficking. Not the illegal immigrant trafficking, although it was included, but we mainly focused on young girls and young kids who are being trafficked here for purposes of prostitution. Part of that technology is rapid DNA. Rapid DNA is a machine that was on the border being used anymore, sadly, to identify people who came to the border with a child. So I'm Joe Blow, swab your cheeks, click the machine 90 minutes, no you're not. Or yes you are, and we swab the child, put her DNA in, and you know what, you're not related, send the profile back to Guatemala, find the parents, and send the child back home. So that's what I've been doing up until June. And then I retired from that and decided to run for governor. Why did I decide to run for governor? Because my phone was ringing off the hook, and my emails were fast and furious, and I was being stopped everywhere I went. Please run. You have the name ID, you have the experience, and you've not lost a race. When I was running for Congress, we were fighting over, in the Democrat district, fighting over 4 to 7% of the vote. I had to win a percentage of that vote in order to win those campaigns. I followed Jennifer Dunn's footsteps. Many of you knew Jennifer Dunn or know of Jennifer Dunn. She was a hard act to follow. And however, she was behind me 110% and supported me. In fact, even helped me make money calls, which she loved to do that I don't like to do. But she liked to do that. So we held on to that district for 14 years. And now today, in the latest poll, it puts us 4% ahead of Bob Ferguson. And it also, I should say the first poll that came out was a Democrat poll, and that actually put us 2%. And then last month, another poll came out, that put us 4% ahead. So it's a good thing we're gaining a lead. That's going to change as soon as Bob Ferguson and his team start to attack me. But the good news here too is that it's not 4 to 7% of the vote that we're fighting over now. It's 20, 22, 23, 24% who are undecided. Those moderate Democrats, independents, and undecided vote. That margin, that percentage has increased. So we're not fighting over 4 or 7. We're fighting almost 22, 23, 24% of the vote. In the last poll, we already have acquired 17% of those 20-something percent undecided votes. And we continue to gain ground there. So I think that's a good sign. All of the experience that I've had in my life has brought me to this point where I believe we can win this race. There's a crack in the door, and we're going to kick it open. I was a hostage negotiator. I was a hostage negotiator too, by the way, in the sheriff's office, but I was also the SWAT commander. It was very beneficial to be a hostage negotiator in Congress. And it was also very helpful to be the SWAT commander because there is a time to negotiate, right? We all know negotiation can be successful, but sometimes it can't. And sometimes as a SWAT team commander, I had to make a decision to kick the door down. And as I said, there is an opportunity now. We're not going to negotiate. We're going to win this race. We're going to kick the governor's mansion door down. And we're going to take that office, and we're going to have the first Republican governor in 40 years in January. Why do I think that's going to happen? All of the reasons I just stated, and then add on to that, as you look at the issues that we're facing today. Criminal justice system, I'll just go from around quickly. The criminal justice system is broken. We blame victims and we excuse criminals. It's an upside down world, right? When I was a cop, you enforce the law. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but the number one thing that we can do to help cops today is just say, enforce the law. That's number one. Number two, I would get rid of the parole board. You know why? They have released 35% of our inmates from our prisons, and they want to close down our prisons. 35% of our inmates are now on the street. So cops don't get support. They can't enforce the law. We'll let crooks out of jail who commit more crime and make it worse for the police officers. Two other things that will help in the law enforcement world. One, it's not going to really I don't think pay is the issue. And I know there's some bills that are being presented in this current legislature that offer bonuses or offer state grants to help agencies hire police officers. I know cops. I talk to cops every day, just about every day. Just got off the phone with a union leader Saturday. What's really bothersome to police officers and why we're not hiring as many as we could, we're still hiring. Some still have the heart to serve. There's two things they're afraid of. One, being sued and losing their home and all the property that they work for, their family, having to pack up and move and find a job somewhere else. Two, going to jail themselves for crying out loud. We saw that happen in Pierce County. Our current Attorney General decided to charge those 3 deputies for officers from Tacoma. When the prosecutor's office in Tacoma said, there are no charges here, the Fergie said, we're going to do it anyway. He also charged the sheriff. And he lost that case too. He wants to go back 10 years and look at cases where officers have used physical force, where they've been investigated and exonerated. He wants to go back 10 years and look at those cases, and if he finds any sort of discrepancy in his mind, then he's thinking about charging those officers too. That's crazy. So that's what we got to start with. We've got to start with protecting those police officers, their individual freedoms, and their ability to do their jobs. 2, this has been labeled as the homeless problem, but it's really not. You in this audience, I'm going to ask you, what are the problems in homelessness that you see? Everybody, every meeting I go to, I ask that question. People know it's substance abuse and it's mental illness. We need to help those people. Again, we're living in an upside down world because now we're expected to do just the opposite of the Good Samaritan. We're now told to walk by that person because they have made a decision they want to sleep on the sidewalk. Now you tell me how a person who's to a point of mental illness where they're sleeping on the sidewalk can make a decision for themselves that's healthy. Ain't happening. What about the person who's so addicted to alcohol or drugs? And we're asking that person, would you like to, get out of the rain? Would you like to move in? Would you like some help? What are they going to say? I'll tell you what they're going to say. Because for 9 years I worked on the street, and the same problem existed then, mental illness and substance abuse. The answer was, you know what, the money's too fast, the drugs are fast, I don't have any rules to live by, I can do what I want to do, I don't have to obey the laws, I can just go out and live my life. Well, they're actually killing themselves. So are they a threat to themselves or others? Yes. And if you're a threat to yourselves or others, what can be done? There's a law in the state of Washington that allows police officers to take people who are determined to be a threat to themselves or others in the community, and we can involuntarily commit those folks and have them evaluated. And if further evaluation is needed, the judge can decide to go to Western State. All right? I spent 8 hours a couple of weeks ago from Burien to Sequoia to downtown Seattle to the University District, talking to homeless people. Some of those who weren't high on drugs do want to leave. And we want to go. I don't want to live in the rain. But people are bringing me food, they're bringing me needles, they're bringing me my drugs, they're bringing me propane for my heat to my tent. That's why we saw a fire not too long ago along my fire by Harborview Hospital. If all we're going to do is enable people, this problem is just going to continue. So we have, and the Republican Party, all of us have been labeled as people who have no compassion, which is the exact opposite, right? We care about those people on the street. We want to help those people on the street. So we're going to empower people to reach out to those folks, and we're going to find a place for them to be. Now, you just can't I met with the Union Gospel folks while I was down there. They have a plan that's working, and it should be copied and implemented across the state, where they take people in for 2 weeks, they get them in a stabilized environment, they counsel them, and they move them up. If they succeed in not having that desire to go back on the street and do alcohol and drugs, then they move up to the second floor. They're there for 3 to 4 months. I forget the time frame. They get more training. Things as simple as work therapy. Work therapy. All that means is, guess what? There's a time to get up in the morning, 8 o'clock, the lights come on, get up, brush your teeth, wash your hair, take a shower, and now your job is to mop the bathroom floor. You have responsibility. And then at night, there's lights out. All folks in the military will know, lights out, right? Yeah. Or the drill sergeant coming and, get up, right? Yeah, he's nodding his head. I remember those days too. 4 o'clock in the morning, standing outside the barracks in your underwear. Well, that's not a picture I wanted you to have. Whoops. Yeah, sad but true. So we have a chance here to implement a plan statewide, things that I've learned from my past experience, things that I'm learning that are newly applied in today's world that's really working. Instead of wasting $1 billion and having no progress. I met with some CEOs, got to be 2 months ago now at Microsoft campus, just to talk about how they play in this private partnership. Private-public partnership is a great way to get the community involved and use some of these dollars from some of these major corporations where the state finds a shortfall. One company in particular said it spent $780 million of the corporation's money last year. And I said, so how do you feel about that? It was a waste of money. $780 million wasted. Here's the other thing. So they say they don't have the resources. You know where they went, don't you? Well, let's just talk about people resources first. He fired them all. Let's hire them back. Let's hire those people back. He fired mental health professionals. He fired medical professionals. He fired paramedics. He fired EMTs. He fired firefighters. I know because I worked with them the last 3 or 4 years trying to get their jobs back. I worked with the firefighters unions. We're going to hire those people back. Not only are those folks, but like I said, I was up in San Juan. We're going to hire the ferry workers too. And the Washington State troopers and the state Maine folks. They've been offered their jobs back, but with conditions. You come back at a different position with lower pay, with lower benefits. What the hell? That's wrong. That's upside down thinking too, in my opinion. Number 3, the economy. What's the first thing you think about when you think about the economy? You know what I think about? There you go. Property taxes. He thinks of number 1 is gas, that carbon gas tax. Okay. Did you know that in the current law, the governor has the authority today to push that button that stops this carbon gas tax?
Amen.
He has that. January, first job, we're pushing the button. Now that's not only just going to stop the carbon gas tax, but it's also going to create an opportunity where those Democrats that are in the House and the Senate, I've been there. I spent 14 years in Washington, D.C. I've negotiated with the president's office. I've negotiated with the Democrats in the Senate. I've negotiated with the Republicans in the Senate, good friends of mine. Some of them are still there, by the way. Negotiated with the Ds in Congress. You will bring them to the table. there are things that I want as your representative in the governor's office that I'm going to be your voice for. And I'm going to say, we want these things. Well, we want these things. They're going to tell me. Well, you know what? If I don't get this, we're not moving forward on anything. Number one thing is the power that the governor has in a balanced government, because we're going to be in a situation where we have a D House and a D Senate. What's going to be different? Whether it's telling the governor veto, 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 veto. Right? They're not used to that. They're not used to that. They're used to the rubber stamp. Rubber stamp, rubber stamp, rubber stamp. Hinton even said, when he retired, he said, and I look forward to the day where I can hand the keys to the next Democrat governor. This is not their right to continue. This is not crowning a king. This is electing a governor for the state of Washington. And with your help, we can make this happen. That carbon gas tax pause hit, it starts to bring down the price, hopefully, on everything that we buy. Because the increase in that gas tax has increased the cost of everything that you purchase here in Washington State. It's a burden on the people here in Washington State, period. How about the capital gains tax? There's another one. That one's going to be tough because they passed legislation and the judge has ruled on that. So the question is, what can we do about that? That's where we have to start holding people accountable to what they vote on. The governor has an opportunity to start presenting some of his own legislation. So my proposal would be we do away with the capital gains tax and let them vote on it. The other thing is, I think a Republican governor in that office is going to start to give our people who have been serving there for the last, well, especially the last 12 years, but we can go back further than that, who have had no voice. Now they'll have the governor's office, they will have a voice, and their voices will be heard, which means your voices, all of our voices, will be heard. That is going to be absolutely critical to changing the dynamics in the state. The other thing that's happening here as we're running is we are exciting some young people across this state to step up and say, you know what, I want to run for office. And it's happening all across the state. You're getting young people who are volunteering to run for the school board, for city council, for county commissioner, building our benches, as they say. Because I guarantee you, once we win, I'm not staying for 12 years. At some point, I want to go fishing. Yeah, I just want to go. We're going to get this ball rolling. Yep. Yes. All right, see if I can mention. Oh, one last thing before I get questions. Education. I mean, we all are so frustrated, not just with the fact that our kids, we spend $19,000 per student. Do you know this? Per student in our education system. And are they being educated on the things that are going to make them successful citizens? No, they're not. They're being taught this woke stuff that's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm a fan of charter schools. We started that process and it got sidetracked because of the current government that is controlling Washington State. I like the idea of that backpack notion where your tax dollars follow your student to the school where you want them to go. These are all going to be legislative proposals coming from either our state legislators who are on our team or from the governor's office. We start to push these ideas. I'm going to share with you, there are 3 ways we win this race. Oh, first of all, those kids are your kids. They're not the state's kids. You need to have all the information about what's happening in that school, who's making decisions for your children, and what's happening, especially in the area of the medical advice that they're receiving. Okay, 3 things that we can do to win. 1, help me out. One, make sure that elections are fair. Okay, Jim Walsh is working on that. You know that. One of the things I like to mention that I know he's doing is building an army out there, but he's planning on putting ballot boxes in places where conservatives go. Where are some of those places? Churches, gun shops, firing ranges. Right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, on the joint base. Let's see if they can steal the ballots from the firing range. Okay, number two. That's on you. Number two is on you. What is it? I know you're going to do it. Vote. Okay. The problem is, people like us who are engaged and involved, we're ready. This is going to be a battle, and you're all ready to vote. But you've got to be the army that gets other people out there to vote. You've got to get your neighbor to vote. You've got to get your kids to vote at their voting age. Your cousins, your aunts and uncles, whomever, register them. And the other thing they're going to do is they're going to do this ballot partisan, right? It's legal. Nothing illegal about it. We're going to do that. Democrats have been doing it. Republican Party has been doing it to do that. Number three, and this one is not quite so obvious to people in our parties. Everybody's, it's like I could hear a pin drop right now. Who do we have to get to vote for us? As I said at the front of my presentation, we've got to get those moderate Democrats and independents to vote. That's what you have to do in this state to win. We're not in a red state. We're in a blue state. And we have to get those independent voters, moderate Democrats. And I'll tell you, the last week I was at two events, one downtown Seattle, hosted by two gay lesbian couples on Western Avenue, just off the waterfront. Nearly 100 people were there. Moderate Republicans, moderate Ds, and independents together, and they walked out of there with our signs and writing checks. The same thing happened in downtown Tacoma just 3 nights ago. We had another event downtown Tacoma. People are, here's what they're listening to. They're listening to a message they haven't heard before, and that is, this is a government. Thank you. This is a government. This is the way I felt for years, and one of the reasons why I'm jumping in the middle of this is that I feel like I've been living on government land. The government's telling me what I can do, when I can do it, almost every day. I'm tired of it. My kids are tired of it. My grandkids are. Fortunately for me, I'm blessed with a conservative family, except for my sister-in-law, who is married to my wife's brother, so she's not really related to me. But what's sad is that this government has divided people, even to the point of we're one region of the state against the other, one community against another, and the saddest part for me is when you cannot even talk to your own family members because you're so divided. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to stand up for what's right. We have to stand up for what we believe. We have to clearly define our message, our conservative message of right and wrong, good and bad, evil. We have to stand up for that message. And I'll tell you, we open up that door, we kick that door down, we get into that governor's office, they're going to start to see some solutions that they're going to be going, why didn't we do this? Because we're going to wake them up. Thank you very much.
Joni, and I've got your questions here. I'm so excited to share these with you. This is from everybody that's here has some questions for you.
Yes, no, yes, yes, yes.
I wish it was that easy for you, but I don't think it will be.
No, I've had tough questions before.
I know. So this is the first one. What are your feelings about mandates? How would you handle it any differently than Inslee did with his more than 920 days of emergency powers?
No mandates. We are adults. We have, and I've said this since I started this campaign, we all have a brain. We can all make our own decisions as to what's going to be put in our bodies. And we also can make those decisions for our children. I think our businesses and our children are hurt tremendously by this 2 year, over 2 years of lockdowns. So that's the answer to that question.
Thank you. What is your feelings on medical freedom and parental rights?
Yeah, I think I already answered,
Yeah.
answered that question, right? Okay.
Yes. Okay. Where do you stand on gun control?
I'm all for the Second Amendment. I look at my own cop, right? I got that question up in the San Juan Islands the other day, and I happened to have my phone out just before I was speaking, and I just had gotten an email from Sportsman's, and I just bought a new gun. I'll make that short story up. So. And my son, short commercial break. I got it. My son Dan is the CEO and owner of Wilson Tools Incorporated. If anyone in here is a reloader, he has a machine shop in East Wenatchee, if you live over there. 16,000 square foot machine shop that makes reloader parts. He has a contract with Cabela's. So if you're Cabela's and you're a reloader for Wilson Tools Incorporated, back to the program. And he's got about 3 safes full of guns. So.
Would you be willing to recognize non-federally recognized tribe in Washington State?
Oh, that's a federal question, and I would be, so, let me answer the question. So I was approached when I was in Congress regarding one tribe, and I won't mention the name, but they came to me and asked me, and I know that there's a lot of politics within the Native American community here in Washington State. And there's one particular tribe, well, 2 that are sort of at odds with each other, sort of like the Hatfields and the McCoys. You may guess what I'm talking about. And you're nodding your head. So I try to stay out of that argument and let the tribes got to figure this out themselves first, and then it's the federal issue. The thing that I'm concerned about when tribes buy property, it all of a sudden becomes reservation land, and that would be something that I would be against because it's been overused now. So that it looks like I answered your question. No.
My question was there are about 40-some tribes in Washington State right now that are not federally recognized.
Yeah.
The federal government says Washington State has the authority to state recognize them.
Mm-hmm.
That way it opens up for fishing and gun rights.
Yeah.
Inslee has promised 3 different times that he will address that situation. Does not. So I know that Washington State cannot federally recognize.
Right.
But they can state recognize, and in doing that will greatly open the door for federal recognition.
Yes.
That's
So.
the only thing.
Right. Yeah. So what I have to do, I would like to do is to take a closer look at that. I think that's a fair answer to that question because it's complicated. It's not a yes or no question. However, I think part of my answer addressed part of my concern there is the more property they purchase because they're becoming pretty wealthy with the casinos that we're So the more property they buy, what happens is the less property taxes are paid to the jurisdictions that they have no property in. Auburn is a great example of that, where they bought the racetrack. They lost a lot of revenue. And I don't know if there's some sort of an agreement, a side contract there with the tribe that they pay a certain amount of fees to the city, but that may have happened, and I don't have that intimate knowledge. Okay. All right.
Okay, next one. Should biological males play female sports?
No.
And should they be allowed to change in the female locker rooms?
No.
Okay.
No. No. I've got daughters and granddaughters, no, and great granddaughters.
And the last part of it was, how many genders are there?
Two. Yeah. Genesis, right? God created man, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next one.
Remember my grandfather was a roof pastor.
Okay, what is the main difference between you and Mr. Bird?
I can win.
Is another pandemic, if another pandemic occurs, will you require the same mandates, lockdowns, and
No.
permits that they have?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay, this is a long one, so just be patient with me on this one. How do you propose to combat medical tyranny imposed by unelected medical bureaucrats who are not practicing physicians and receive their edicts in turn from unelected bodies such as the FDA, the CDC, and the WHO, as opposed to the reliance on double-blind, replicated scientific studies widely available in the scientific literature, as well as frontline practicing physicians who have, in contrast to official dogma, unsuccessfully treated hundreds of patients during the recent 3 years of so-called medical emergency.
Yeah, where's the question?
Yeah, I've already answered that question, I think, with the pandemic, masks, and vaccinations. But this is a decision that you all can make. We can provide, scientists can provide as much information as we can to the public, and then you choose to believe what you believe, and you also have your religious beliefs too that guide you and how you're going to address any medical issues that come forward in your life. Look, I remember when I was in Congress, I was there like 10 weeks, I think, 10 or 11 weeks. You might remember this, some of you. This was in 2005, and Tom DeLay put a bill on the floor to address the issue of Terry Schiavo, and where she was the woman on life support in Florida. The family was having a battle over whether or not to remove her life support. And so I landed on a Friday night, got a text, or it was BlackBerry back then, so I got a message on BlackBerry to get back on the plane on Sunday morning, because on Sunday night we would take a vote. It was so critical we had to take this vote. So this was Tom DeLay. So I flew back on Sunday night. I walked in and I voted against Tom DeLay, the Republicans, on this issue because, in my opinion, this is a decision that should be made by the family, their God, and their doctors. I don't know. It's an example of sometimes government run amok on both sides, right? Republicans can make the same mistakes, but there's no way in the world. I did not understand why the United States government was getting involved in a personal health care issue in Florida. So you get my point. Somebody got that. Yeah, it was definitely overreach. Yeah, definitely overreach.
Okay, next question. Please talk about the surplus money Inslee has accumulated And why taxes keep escalating? What will you do?
Okay, yeah. Okay, you can help me answer the second part of that question. Why do taxes keep escalating? Okay, that answer is clear, right? Because we've been living in a world of Democrats ruling the state of Washington, and that's what they do. Every time they turn around, they want to tax and take more money out of your hands, and that's why it's made this state so unfriendly to businesses. That's why so many businesses, one of the reasons why so many businesses packed up their stuff and moved out of this state. They're tired of getting taxed again. My 3 kids are blessed to own their own businesses, a variety of 3 are much different. I always spoke about my son's machine shop. He's got about 15 employees. I hear from him and my other 2 every day just about on taxes and regulations. Taxes and regulations, taxes and regulations. And that's what's happening because we have a Democrat-run government. There's no balance to the government. The first part of the question as it relates to the surplus money, a lot of that surplus monies come from the carbon gas tax. Where is that money supposed to be? Let me back up. Remember when the state, legalized gambling and the lottery?
Oh, yeah.
Where was that money supposed to go? Right, did it go there?
No.
No. Okay, so do I trust that the money coming from the capital gains gas tax is actually going to fix my roads? No. So I like to tell people, so what we have to do, we know there's over $2 billion. I'm suspecting that there's a lot more than that. So one of the things I want to do is use my investigative experience and go in there and find out where the hell that money's going.
If the Washington State Republicans endorse another candidate at the state convention other than yourself, will you endorse that candidate?
No, I'm going to run. I'm running. I'm running to win. I'm not stepping down.
Yes.
I can win this race.
Will you stop all sanctuary state laws, including free abortions?
So sanctuary state laws are laws. So now we're back to working with the Democratic House and Senate. But the big thing that the governor can do is present your own bill. So that's where we would start. We'd start with that sanctuary state law, and we would present that law and force the Democrats to vote on that law. We know which way they're going to vote. I think that once we start to explain our ideas as we go forward in a Republican administration, we're going to convince people that we have the answers to the problems that are facing us, and we're going to present that law, have them vote on it, and hopefully in 2 years we gain some seats in the House and the Senate side.
Okay. Debates are the equal opportunity for we the people to evaluate the positions both Republicans align with as well as differ on for the Washington citizens. Will you be for the Washington citizens you will be representing? When will you debate Semi Bird as the Constitution matters?
I will not debate Semi Bird.
Oh,
Next
why?
question.
Why?
Do you support Trump's decision not to debate?
No, not really.
And why? Because?
Well, the Democrats are after it, yeah.
It's your decision.
Yes.
It's your decision.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. No, I'm looking forward to debating Ferguson after the primary, after we win. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to go there. He's not a credible candidate, in my opinion.
An article appeared in USA Today over the weekend about the Mexican cartels embedding in Port Orchard, Kitsap County, and the greater Puget Sound, and quotes law enforcement stating their level of violence is terrifying. Fentanyl deaths, drugs, and related crimes are an epidemic. How will you eradicate this criminal takeover of our state?
It goes back to the first point I made, and that's directing that we enforce the law. So if you want to talk about the whole sanctuary state thing as far as immigrants go, one of the ways that you address that problem is by immediately going after those people that are here from other countries that are involved in gangs, that are committing crimes, or have committed crimes in other parts of the state. Those are the people that we can get out of this state right off the bat without worrying about the sanctuary state status. But at the same time, we work on the sanctuary state status through this legislative process. And back to the sanctuary state, that was first an executive order by Inslee, and then what happened is the legislature codified that in law. So we have to fight to get that out of law. That's the problem.
I think you've already answered this, but I'll just read it through. How do you think about parents' rights in relation to schools, or what do you think about that? Is a parent who objects to curriculum a terrorist?
No, I have been, I've been an advocate for my three kids when they were in school. When I felt they were being wronged by a teacher, I was down pounding on the principal's door. So if that happened today and I did that, I might be considered a terrorist, but I think I'm a parent standing up for my child's rights. Yep. Oh, by the way, that's an initiative. That's an initiative that will be on the ballot in November. Yeah, it's one of the 6. And I've signed all of them, by the way.
Democrats' best issue is abortion, which polls say Biden wins by 12 points over Trump, a big enough margin to make a difference. Washington Democrats believe they can keep the governor's seat and both legislative houses in 25 by emphasizing your self-described pro-life stance. What is the plan to keep enough Democrat crossover votes to win governor's seat away from the Attorney General, Bob Ferguson?
Yeah, so they've already started that attack on me. And once the session is over, it will be intensified. The answer is, this question has been already decided by the voters of Washington State. In 1970, we passed a law. That was the first abortion law. It's been codified in law several times since then. And as the governor, just like I was when I was the sheriff, I'm going to enforce the law. I don't believe that an elected official should be the one making this decision. I think it should be the women of Washington State, along with the voters of Washington State, making any further decision. That's what the Supreme Court said. The decision belongs to the state of Washington, and when I hear the decision belongs to the state of Washington, I hear it belongs to the people of the state of Washington, not to one governor.
Yeah, thank you.
How do you intend to break the Democrat juggernaut on the I-5 corridor?
Well, first of all, we got to find where the money is going, and we got to get money directed to fixing our highways, bridges, and a lot of people don't know that our culvert system too is failing and falling apart, which is also resulting in some of the pollution in some of our streams, lakes, rivers, and other waterways. And those are billions of dollars needed to repair those areas. So let's just talk about the one juggernaut that was created just about a month ago on I-5 with 500 people blocking the freeway for how many hours? 6 hours, 3 miles back up, or 3 hours and 6 miles back up. One of those two. But total disregard for every other citizen in this state was on I-5 at the time. Look, I was the sheriff during WTO. We didn't have 500 people rioting during WTO. We had 500,000 people rioting. And when I called the chief on Sunday, and I said, Chief Stamper, Mayor Shell, are you going to need my help on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? No, it's going to be a peaceful event. In fact, we went on the radio and said it was going to be a peaceful event. Come down and watch the people express their freedom of speech. I got on the radio right after him and I said, please do not come to the city of Seattle. This will be a riot. So he called me, chewed me out, and I hung up the phone. So the next day on Monday, he called, or actually Chief Stanford called me and said, we need help, we're in deep trouble. It was Monday afternoon. You know what, it hit the fan. So on Sunday afternoon, I had put 350 riot gear deputies in the basement of the courthouse. And so what I did was open the doors and march them out on the street, and I said, make arrests. Because they weren't making arrests. They were just pushing them here, pushing them there, and they allowed them to take over an entire building. Back in 1999, during WTO, they gave them sleeping bags and pizzas and, and made them comfortable. And when I started making arrests, when my deputies started making arrests, the mayor called me and said, hey, we're not making arrests, let's stop making arrests. And I said, no, I'm the sheriff, and we're making arrests. So Seattle started making arrests, State Patrol started making arrests, and that's how we were able to get control back of downtown Seattle. And then fast forward, they didn't just take over a building, they took over blocks of the city, and they took over a precinct, right? On the freeway, 500 people, and the State Patrol said I had two brothers that retired from WSP, and they were sick about this. We don't have enough people to take action to open the freeway, go alone. What I would have done is called every police department in the surrounding community and said, hey, come and help us clear this freeway and tow their cars off the freeway right now. And if that didn't work, I'd call the National Guard out, and we do the same thing.
Okay, do you know what common denominator was for 1913, 1933, 1944, 1965, 1971, as they were all very important years and were essentially economic resets and devaluations of currency, the dollar. There are currently 11 states that recognize constitutional money and are part of a movement that if another 17 states pass legislation would make 28. Do you know what constitutional money is, and are you aware of the movement that other states are making to create reserves to help shelter their states from certain economic trials that lie ahead? And would you support legislation to bar the use of central bank digital currencies within Washington state?
Okay. No, I'd have to research that question. Next question. Next question. Okay. I'm gonna warn you. That's all right. How many do you have left?
3 more. Okay, here's a quick one. Why is
I'll take this
Semi
one.
good? Why is Semi not a credible candidate?
I'll let you figure that out, because I am not going to talk about my opponent, but all I will encourage you to do is please take a look at the facts and then make your decision. I always take the high road, but my bottom line is I don't consider him to be a credible candidate. I'll just say one thing: he has no money, he's in debt. This is going to cost us $15 to $20 million. We're closing in on 1.7, 1.8 million, and we're closing in on Ferguson. I've won campaigns before, and I've won. I've won campaigns where I've been behind and I've been outspent. So I know if the Democrats come at me with 30 million, I can win this race with 15 to 20.
Okay, last question. I noticed your voting records supported Democrat Governor Inslee on COVID protocols, which destroyed many businesses, our education for kids.
Wait, okay, stop. Okay. No, I wasn't in Congress during so my voting record, yeah.
Well, thank you so very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Karen, can you please come up here?
Hey, look, I'm 73 years old. So for those of you who are Bird fans, I don't know the man very well. I understand he's pleasant and well-spoken and smart. I have nothing against Senator Bird at all. I'm just saying, I'm a better candidate. I came out of retirement to do this because I love this state, I love this country, I love my family, I love my great grandkids, and I think I'm the one who can win this race to make a difference for the rest of the people in this state. That's why I did it.
This is our thank you packet from Silverdale, see the Republican women.
Thank you, guys.
You hope they feel